Everywhere. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Skill Up Show. What just happened there? What happened? Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to the Skill Up Show. It's 1 o'clock, that time where we come in here and we talk about parenting. We're looking at parenting, how we can parent our preteens, how we can parent our young children, and how we can parent our toddlers. Okay, but the Skill Up Show is a show that is tailored for parents who are raising preteens. But you know how we say it, you don't go to war on the day of war. So it's important that you prepare for war before the day of war. So I say parenting is war. So yes, as a parent, you want to ensure that your toolbox is full. Your toolbox is ready to parent your preteens. So yes, even if you're a toddler parent, you want to get that, started as early as possible. So by the time your children are toddlers, you know that you are ready for, you're equipped basically to parent them effectively. Just give us a second. Let's get our Facebook channel on. Sorry, our Facebook, yeah, streaming on also. We've had a problem with StreamYard for some time, trying to get back our subscription for multiple platform, and so because of that we have to try and stream on two different devices at every point. But I'm hoping that we can sort that out, because this is not even funny. Many times it's not funny at all. So I'm hoping that we can sort that out, in the next week or so that we stop having these issues that we have when we have to, start trying to get both device to work actively. So welcome to the Skill Up Show. Today we're talking about something really interesting. We're talking about how we can parent our children. Let's see if we can get more light here, because it's a bit dark on Facebook. And today I'm also in my Hajia element. I'm also in my Hajia element. So I have my northern vibe on, so I have my, scarf and all of that. But yeah, let's get right into the show. My name is Maribel Chima. I am the founder of the Parenting Through Mentorship Academy and PTM Resources. I'm also the proud matron of the Mastermind Circle, a peer mentorship and accountability group where we help children become the best version of themselves. Yes, we help children recognize the role that they play in their own lives, and we help them to start taking active steps towards directing themselves, making good choices for themselves in their lives, and then understanding that they are the most important people in their own lives. So yes, what mommy, what daddy, what their teachers, their coaches, and every other person is doing in their life is supporting them. But the children understand that the decisions that they make, the things that they do, the way that they act, and the habits that they build today is going to affect them today and for the rest of their lives. So yes, we get these children into this conscious place where they can start seeing themselves and seeing, their journey and where they are going to as early as possible. And I promise you, parents, it's never too early to get your children to that space, okay, into that space where they begin to see themselves and they begin to see, life as it truly is. Okay, so sometimes our children are delusional for way too long. Yes, okay, in the bid or in the name of, oh, they are children, let children be children, we allow children live in a delusional world. We allow them live without realities, and for the longest time, that's the bad part about it. Okay, for the longest time. So that's why we have teenagers who actually do not still understand the role that they play in their lives. You have teenagers who still think that when they make certain decisions, it's their parents that will suffer for it. We have teenagers who still think that they should talk to their parents in a certain way because they are entitled. Most of these things happen because at the time where we needed to start pointing them to reality or pointing them to the things that are their responsibilities, we don't do that early enough. So this is what we do in the mastermind. We get children into the space where the children are faced with the reality of the fact that they are the most important people in their lives, and that the decisions that they make even as preteens, could affect them as teenagers, as young adults, or for the rest of their lives. All right. So we help children build habits as early as possible, habits that they can transform as they grow older, habits that can be internalized, and of course they can build character from this habit. So yes, if you do not have your children in the mastermind yet, what are you doing? You're just there allowing these children miss. There's too much going on in the circle for any child not to join. I say to the parents in the circle, and I say to every parent, the mastermind is a training ground. Yes, we train the children on every ground. We have our signature 8 areas where we focus on when we're raising these children at this point. We say to parents, bring them to the mastermind first. The mastermind is that place where we train them, we guide them, we support them calmly. Yes, the way it should be done for children at this age. So it is done calmly, it is done with a lot of encouragement, a lot of motivation, a lot of peer mentorship, a lot of accountability, follow up, and all of that. But in all of it, it is done from a place of calm. We have a motto in the mastermind, and in the mastermind, we have certain mantras, and one of them is that we are not too young to dream. So we dream it and we work to achieve it. So yes, the kids come in and they learn to start setting goals for themselves as early as possible. And you know the good thing about the goals that we set in the mastermind, we work on those goals every day. So your children will watch themselves achieve their goals. They'll watch themselves set goals at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of a quarter, and at the end of the quarter, they will see for themselves how they achieve those goals, and they can tell that this is me, this is my effort, meaning if I put in the effort, I can get somewhere. That's the cool thing. And you know something, you could bring in your child to the mastermind and the child is struggling, but the child is seeing other children achieving these things, achieving these things, and before you know it, because we have zero tolerance for shaming in the mastermind, every child gets to grow at their pace, every child gets to be inspired by other children, and you see them growing like that. Okay, so it's a robust community. It's a training ground. It's a place where your little children, we accept children as young as 6 year olds. So we even taking 5 year olds that are about to turn 6. So yes, your children will come in here and begin to learn little habits, little habits like waking up and making their beds every day, moving from you being the one chasing them around to them understanding the why. We don't joke with the why in the mastermind. Every child in the mastermind understands the why behind every action that they have to take and everything that they have to do. So it makes it easier, right? We even allow them go back and analyze some of the reports we get from their parents. We send it to them as homework. Like, go and tell us how you would respond given the situation. And a lot of times, some of them would have done those things that we're sending them back to go and reflect on. And they come and give us answers. And I'm looking at your answer and I'm like, really? You know this? So it's just a robust community. And at 14, we actually graduate those children and, send them out there confident of the kind of teenagers that we have graduated. So they can go into teenage programs equipped. That's a cool thing. So when we have our mastermind children in teenage programs, they are exceptional. Okay. So yes. So today is not about the mastermind per se. Everything is about the mastermind somehow because we're talking about children and how to equip them. Today we want to look at 7 reasons why you should create a customized home education execution plan for your child. Yes, I'm sure some people are already saying, education. Are they not going to school? Dear parents, you are your child's first teacher and your child's most important teacher. Get that. Don't even joke with this realization. You are your child's number 1 teacher, and you are the most important teacher in your child's life. I remember when I was in the classroom, okay, some years back when I was actively in the classroom as a homeroom teacher, and I had a challenge with a particular parent that, the child was quite entitled, at the time. And, there was all that back and forth about the child and certain things that we had to enforce in the class and all of that. And the parents, the mother, was coming around, and somehow we had to deal with some of these issues with my superior at the time. So I remember one of those days we had that session, the parent, the mother, my head of school at the time, and then I mean, me as the child's teacher. We had finished having the conversation and all of that, and the mother left. And the head teacher turned to me and said, "It's okay, Miss Marybeth. It's okay. You're going to have this child for just 1 year. This parent is going to have this child for the rest of his life." That's it's like it hits really, really hard. She said, "You are going to be his teacher. You're going to impact him. You're going to have his ears and his heart for 1 year, just 1 year, 1 year with many holidays." I even said to myself, 1 year with many holidays between. But this parent is going to have this child all day, all week, all month, all years, till death do them part. I mean, part basically. This you as a parent are going to be in the life of your child forever. So who is that person that is coming to be in the child's life for 1 year or for a season that you think is more important, a teacher to your child? I say every time to parents, the school is only a tool in your parenting. So the school cannot be depended on the way some of us depend on the school. Am I trivializing the effect of school or of education or formal education? Not at all. Amazing. Why not? We should encourage our children to do well in school, to take school seriously and all of that. But you as a parent, I hope that you have the right knowledge and you understand the why behind the things that you are doing or the things that you are exposing your child to, so that you can understand your role in their lives and you can understand why you cannot be the one that is soft pedaling. You cannot be the one that is assistant teacher. You cannot be the one that is lukewarm or laid back about your child's education. You should be the one at the forefront of your child's education. And that also is because your child's education is beyond just their academic education or their academic no, I mean the knowledge that they are gathering in the academic world. That your child's education is bigger than that, is broader than that, is deeper than that, is huger than that. Okay, so now I hope we have established the fact that we are our children's number one teachers and we are our children's most important teacher. Now that brings me to the whole concept of planning. So me, I mean, sitting down here, I can tell you for free that I am one person that has suffered, I mean, suffered a lot from not understanding or not applying the concept of planning early in many areas of my life. I'm one child that suffered because I didn't have parents like many of us. I mean, I am here sitting down here and telling my story, or I am not afraid to go back and visit how I was raised or my childhood and all of that. Okay, if you do the same, perhaps you will find some of these things that I am talking about also. So I was never really, taught to plan per se. Okay, I was never really taught to plan per se. But growing up, I got to some point, and by the time I had left university and I had started my second job, okay, I already recognized that planning was a challenge for me. So a lot of things were just winged. A lot of things happened along the way. I mean, because there is no plan, there is always a shift in decisions, right? There's always a shift in decision. I mean, you take this job today, and then after a while it becomes difficult, or after a while, I mean, someone becomes a pain in your neck or something, and then it was just easy to throw in the towel there, pick my bag and move to the next thing, and all of that. At the time it seemed like, oh, no, I don't know how to take nonsense, I'll just move. But if we go back and look at some of these things, they are trauma. And because somehow we were not taught how to stay in there. Tenacity was not taught, right? We're not taught to to stay in there, to see things through. Okay, some of us were not taught how to start things or to initiate tasks. A lot of us were not that we were not taught, not that they didn't say these things. Okay, in many cases, our parents talked about these things. Our parents scolded us about these things, but our parents did not put in place a plan, a strategy, or curriculum that helped us go through the process of knowing the how and practicing the how until these things become a part of our lives. So this is me for, saying here, I was one of those children that didn't have this process. And, I think, I saw, not just think, I know I suffered a lot from that inability to plan, okay, to plan, to ask questions, and put all of that. So by the time I was in my second job, I had reached the point where I realized that there were a lot of things that I had missed out. There were a lot of things that I was missing out on. There were a lot of things that I wasn't doing well. There were a lot of things that, I could avoid, that I wasn't avoiding simply because I didn't know how to sit, plan, execute, and all of that. And so I started making all this, I started thinking about things like more intensely, and trying to like do some sort of a planning around them. So by the time my first came, I already had some sort of a plan as per the things that I wanted to do. You've been following me. I've shared this a number of times. I had come to the realization that I wasn't allowed to spread my wings and fly and do the things that were me. I wasn't allowed to be me the way I should be. So I made that decision that when I have children, I was going to allow my children, just go with who they really are. And I wasn't going to be that parent that would insist that you must do a particular thing or do things a particular way. I knew that. Okay. I had stumbled into reading books somehow, and it edified me and became, the reason for some of my successes. All right, even while it wasn't something that was intentional. And so for me, I knew I was going to be intentional about this with the children. So there are a few things, pocket things here and there. I talked about this in my book, Mentor Parents. I talked about some of those things that they were wishes. So that's what it is. Some of those things that became wishes, right? Things that I wished or I knew I said I was not going to do. But because I didn't know how to put plans on ground to make sure that these things were effective, okay, they became just wishes. And that's what is happening to a lot of us as parents. We have good intentions. We have all of these things that we want to see in our children. We have all of these things that we wish our children would do. We wish our children would be. All of this picture that, okay, this is it and all of that. But the problem is these things will continue to be pictures. These things will continue to be wishes until we learn how to create plans around these things and how to create not just plans, but create plans that are effective, plans that have step-by-step ways of executing them, being able to review where we are per time, and then being able to strategize and keep re-strategizing using effective tools until we reach our goals. And now this is what we are talking about today. We want to look at why we need to do all of this. There are times you have conversations. In fact, I even had one of those conversations this morning, and someone was telling me about how we were talking about cooking, right? We're talking about food, and of course, it was a man, and we're talking about food, and he was talking about the fact that he didn't know how to cook till he got to the university. He didn't know how to cook at all when he went to the university. And I'm like, so our mothers had this whole idea that our children, boys, shouldn't learn to cook, right? They had all of these ideas that they didn't bother with teaching the boys how to cook. They didn't bother with passing the boys through that whole system of learning to cook. And back in the day, we went to universities where we had to cater for ourselves. You had to go to the market, you had to cook your own food and all of that. In many cases, our parents didn't even give us enough money that you will say, okay, deliberately, the plan was that you ate out, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that you ate out at a restaurant and all of that. They gave you money like, okay, go sort yourself out. Now, what was the plan? How did they plan that these boys would survive? How did they plan that these boys how did they plan that these boys, as far as food goes, what was the plan? So you see, there was all of this vagueness, okay? There was our parents didn't want to be specific about anything. They didn't want to narrow down anything to the basics. They didn't want to take up an issue and see, I mean, analyze it and see where is this going to take this child, or what exactly it is that I'm trying to achieve here. Or it was nothing. It was usually everything off the top. And it is sad that because this is the template with which we are raised, a lot of us are still in that space where we don't look at one issue critically from the beginning to the end. Like, okay, we start here. What are the outcomes that we're looking at? Where is it going to take us? Where are we going to arrive? And, what are we going to put into the system to make it work? So even as a country, we are still in that space where nothing is picked, looked at critically, and then planned through to the end. So as far as project planning and execution is concerned, we do poorly, especially in this part of the world. And this is why a lot of, countries in the Western world are doing a lot more than we are doing, because these are people who have perfected the act of taking up a project and looking at the project short term, long term, going through all of the processes. They have considered the outcomes and all of that. We do not do these things. We don't consider the outcomes. We just want to think about it. Okay, this is it. We want to get here. All right, we start. And that's it. No execution plan, nothing. Now we're taking this into parenting, and I can tell you for free that that is one place that it doesn't work. Yes, because as I said, we're people who do not go back to review. We don't go back to examine what we've done. We don't want to review and all of that. That is the reason we keep shouting, we turned out well, everything is okay, and all of that. And then, of course, when our children stumble into problems or we have all of these issues, we don't go back and try to trace our contributions, because, as I said, we are people who just look at the top and then we look at the end. We don't want to see the process and all of the things in between that could have led to this child that we're probably struggling with at the time. So this is what we want to look at. How can we stop doing this? Look at the top and look at the end and forget about the process that leads to the intentions that we have and how we can arrive at the results that we are looking at. Okay, because if we continue like this, we'll continue to raise children without debts. We'll continue to raise children without plans to get to their goals, and so they will continue to derail in between, and we will have outcomes that we did not plan for. And we don't want that, because as it is today, the world is too evil. Let me use that word. The world is too evil today for you not to plan and have, an execution process, right? The world is too evil for you to chance things. Yes, you cannot just do, okay, let me just give the child an education. How he sorts himself out is his problem. You can't do that. Okay, so you can't make demands of a child that you have not equipped for that thing that you're making a demand for. So that's what we're trying to say. So now these demands that we will make of our children, these things that we expect of our children, this place that we're hoping that our children will get to, what are the plans that we have put on the ground? What are the ways that we have trained or we have skilled them to arrive there? Even scripture says that we should train the child in the way that they should go. We should train them in the way that they should go. It means that there is a process. There is something that you have to do if you want your child to go in the way that you are training them. All right? So there is something you have to do. And that training cannot simply be take them to church in the morning, pray with them in the morning, give them food to eat, send them to a school, and then wait for the future to happen. That cannot cut it anymore. I tell you what, parents, do you know it didn't even cut it during our time? It didn't really cut it. Even for some of us who are street smarts today, some of us who can hold our own, some of us who have gone through thick and thin, and we still have our heads up. Do you know that it wasn't just because they sent us to school and all of that? It was because we had experiences that the times allowed us have that our children do not have today. Those days you were out there on the streets, walking to church and coming back, all of those lessons you were learning, those times that your mom had to send you down the road to go to Yayabo's shop, you went all the way, you interacted with Yayabo, you had to make decisions between your house and Yayabo's house, that your child is not even having these opportunities today. All of those times that you played outdoor and your parents didn't even know which route you passed, which path you took, and all of that, but eventually they just saw you arrive at 6 o'clock or something like that. All of those decisions you had to make, all of those intense moments that you had to navigate, solve problems out there without any adult telling you what to do. Do you know the kind of learning that went on, the kind of experiences that we gathered as young children? All of those times that you had to play, you were only 6, you were playing with 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 16-year-olds. All of those times, do you know the kind of peer mentorship that was going on there? Yes, your children do not have those experiences. They are bunched all the time with people who are about their age. You even have children that are all 1-year-old, 2-year-olds, 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, like that, within the same age range. Do you know what it did that we had cousins who were 18 and we were 8? Cousins who were 15 and we were 3. Do you know the kind of mentorship that happened there? So these children do not even have what we had. That's the truth about it. So we're raising children who are straight jackets. We're raising children who are learning in one direction. If you don't become intentional, if you do not decide to look critically at where your child is going to, or where you're going to with your child, and begin to create customized plans that will help you reach these goals, then you will be doing your child a disservice. I say this without even mincing words. If we don't do this, I'm talking about myself also, if we don't do this for these children, then we will be preparing them for a world that they cannot thrive in. And you do not want to be the one who gives your child this burden. So no, this is not the time to say, oh, they will figure it out. No, we create experiences. The truth about it, even in education, even the people who put together the whole education system, even in how our forefathers were raised, or in how our forefathers basically back in the day, the way it was such that adults created experiences. If I go back to the Bible, it was such that the father had a trade and all of his children learned under him in that trade. So that's why people who were shepherds had children who were shepherds. People who were carpenters had children who were carpenter. So that's why it was easy to call Jesus the carpenter, because his father was a carpenter. So it was such that children learned under their parents, right? A trade basically through mentorship, and of course with a plan to help them become what their parents were. All right, if we are not doing this today, we are not in line with the old time, we are not in line with the present time. In fact, we are just freestyling because we do not have plans. We are a generation where planning is a difficult thing for us. So you see why, if we're not doing this intentionally, there will be trouble, more trouble than we understand. Okay, there'll be more trouble than we understand. All right. So now this is not to even cause fear. What's the fear now? When there is so much that we can do, where there is a lot that we can do right now to begin to, put these things in place and help children learn how to navigate their lives. All right. So yes, the times that we're in is different. Okay, it's a time where you have to create plans before you get married. Yes, it's a time where by the time you are meeting the person that you are interested in, you sit down, you create plan, you have a marriage plan and all of that. A lot of us got into marriages without even doing any of those things. We didn't know where we're going to. We just knew that, oh, we liked, we loved, he pleased me and I pleased him and all of that. You can do that today. Okay, you can do that today, or you will just wake up one day and find that the girl on your bed is also a man. So there is a lot, right? There's a lot going on that the standards that we have cannot be the standards that we use today. All right. So we need to start learning how to plan. Now, as a parent, how do you plan? Okay. As a parent, how do you plan? All right. How do you customize? How do you create a customized plan for your child? The first thing you want to look at in creating a customized or a personalized education execution plan for your child is you want to see who you want to ask yourself the question, who do I see? So when you look at your child, who do you see? Okay, who do you see? Who do you see that that child is? Okay, who do you see that that child is? Who do you see that person? Okay, ask. Who are you looking at? Okay, are you able to look closely? Are you able to see? Because there are times that we're looking and yet we are not seeing, isn't it? Okay, so I tell you how by the time I was getting married, I knew a couple of things that I wanted to, get right, things that I want to make sure that, and then but at that time, I still didn't know how to really put a plan in place. Okay. At some point, I started learning. Okay. I got into the education sector. I started doing more, I really wanted to be a good parent. Okay. So I started, checking and looking at, what are the things that are possible. I started looking at parents who have done well with their children. I started reading and looking and trying to research people like Serena Williams' parents, Mark Zuckerberg. I was intrigued, to know who the parents who raised these people were like, or what they are like, and all of that. Okay. And so I started creating some small plans. At the time my husband was still in that space. I talked about this a lot in this book, Small But Mighty book. Okay. So my husband wasn't in that space of sit down and overdo. You people, your own is plenty, but eventually, I was able to create what we call the 2010 plan. All right. So at the time, we just focused like first 10 years plan. Now this plan was a general plan, right? It was a general plan. Okay. By the time the child is 5, by the time is 6, okay, by the time the child is 10, what are we hoping that the child would be able to do? What are we hoping that the child would have done? And all of that and all of that. Now, what was lacking in that plan, even at the time that I had started creating plan, was that I wasn't looking at the who. I wasn't seeing. Who was I seeing? I just had a plan for what a child should be, or should be able to do at age 10. I wasn't looking at the child before me. So you have to look at the child. What is the child like? What is the child's temperament, right? What is the child's temperament? How does that child learn? How does that child want to be loved? What kind of child is he? I mean, is the child that wants to be with you always? Is the child that just wants to say, hey, mommy, and then walk away? Who is your child? Who are you seeing? So very important that you see that. Okay. The other thing you want to see is, what am I seeing? What can I see? What can I see about this child? What are the strengths that this child has got? All right. What are the strengths that this child has got? What are the things that this child is inclined to? What are the things that this child does easily, basically? Because at this point, you are also looking at what are the plans that God has for this child, that is depending on me to help the child, see. What are the plans that what are the purpose that God has created this child for, that I am going to be a vehicle to the child arriving at, or the child, fulfilling. So you are looking at who is my child, and you're looking at what can I see about this child. So these two things are very, very key if you are going to create personalized plans for the child. All right. So we have a course that we run in the academy. It's actually called the PEP. It's called the Personalized Education Plan. So this course is not a full course where you have 10, 20, 100 people in the course and all of that. It's a course that we tailor for 1 or at most 3 parents in a group, because in that course it's intense. We're going to be sitting down and we're going to be creating specific plans for each of your children. 2 kids that are either toddlers or preteens. We sit down with parents and we create the personalized education plan. That plan becomes your 10-year plan for your child, right? So for you who has a preteen, it is that plan that you're creating that will launch your preteen into a teenager that is equipped, a teenager that is productive, a teenager that is skilled, basically. All right. So we tailor it to the child's specific need. So by the time you sit down with us as a parent, you're not just sitting down for us to arrange one thing and hand to you. You're sitting down because you are the one who knows your child. So that way you are involved in creating, and we're just here going to guide you on how to go ahead, go about creating this execution plan. It's intense, but it's an amazing thing. And it's one thing that has saved me and my parenting, that I don't have to be all over the place, right? I don't have to be all over the place in parenting. We have heard all of these quotes and all of these things that are beginning to sound cliche, but the fact is they are true. Okay, they are true. When you hear things like, if you don't plan, if you don't plan to, how did they put it? If you don't plan to win, you plan to fail. Something like that. He who fails to plan plans to fail, isn't it? That's the truth. It may sound like, oh, everybody's saying, but it's the truth. If you fail to plan, you will end up, failing, basically. Okay. There's another one that says an hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. Yes, an hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. Look at it this way. Okay, a week of planning, a day of planning, a week of planning can actually save you and your child 20 years of running kitty kitty kata kata all over the place. Okay, so you don't want to be that 21st century parents who does not know how to, or who doesn't have a plan, who is not armed with a plan. That's why someone will ask you, what's the plan for this? And you're like, we don't know, and all of that, and then some of us will not try to be modest about these things, okay? And then we'll go, we leave it in the hands of God. No, God is not going to plan for us. God has given us all the grace, giving us all the grace available for us to, be everything that he has predestined our purpose. I hope we know that. Even that child, God has already predestined. The child's purpose is already predestined. So how come God didn't put it right in your lap? Like, by the time, the day that we deliver, the day these children come, to the world, it just gets handed to you. All right, this child is going to be this child is going to do this child is going to impact the world this way. No, there is a role that you will play in the life of that child. That's why you are a co-creator with God, so that every time you are speaking, you are creative. Every time you are speaking with your child, dear parents, you are creating. Every plan that you put on ground with your child, for your child, you are creating. Every decision you make in the life of your child, you are creating. The tiniest decisions as simple as who is the nanny that is in the house with your child per time, is you creating the rest of the life of this child. Hello, everyone. I can see you. Auntie Mute, is that you? How are you, Auntie? Udo, I see you. Jenny, Auntie Jenny herself, how are you doing? Nkiru, how are you doing? All right, if you're here, please just say something in the comments. Let us know we have company if you are with us. All right, so whatever it is, all of these things, and if you're joining us on YouTube, you can also say something in the comment section. And on YouTube, have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? If you're catching the replay or you're watching this right now, why don't you just go ahead and click the subscription button and subscribe, so that you get alerts when we get alerted when we go live, or notified when we go live, and you can enjoy all of the resources, amazing resources, that span over 4 years, that we have in our YouTube channel. All right. So yes, you are creating. You are constantly creating, dear parents. The words you speak is creating a person that your child will be for the rest of their life. The things you do, the decisions you make, the tiny ones and all of that. So wouldn't you rather sit down and carve out a plan? Wouldn't you rather sit down and create a solid plan, so that everyone involved in the life of this child is in sync, right? Everyone involved in the life of this child is aligned to the ultimate plan that is. So whatever it is that you are doing per time with the child is not just coming from anywhere. Of course, we cannot forget the God factor, right? We can't forget the God factor. So that's why we do our part. You know how they say, you prepare as if your life depends on that, or your success depends on that preparation. You also pray knowing that your success also depends, so do your part. That's why faith without works is nothing, right? Is even God has told us that. So he hasn't said that we shouldn't have plans for our children. We should just give them bread to eat and water to drink and wait for him. He will do everything, right? There is the place and there is the reason why you were specially handpicked to be the parent of this child, because you are the perfect parent for this child, or the perfect co-creator with God for this particular child that your child is. So yes, we cannot be in that space where we don't want to do anything and we're saying it is God, it is God. This is, with all due respect, this is okay. I don't even want to use any word that is not appropriate. I wanted to say this is a mediocre's way of thinking, okay? But I just imagine, pretend that you didn't even hear me say that. But this is wrong thinking, basically. It's wrong thinking, and we better start seeing ourselves as co-creator, powerful people that God has unpicked to, do this job with him. So let's go right into why. Quickly, we're going to do that in the next 10 minutes, and we are out of here. All right, so let's look at why we should, the reasons why you want to start creating those plans. Number one is it helps you to become present in the life of each of your children. So if you have at the back of your mind that no two of my children are the same, even for the ones that are identical twins, no two of them are the same. No two of them have got the same destiny. No two of them have got the same purpose. No two of them were tailored the same way. So it simply means that you can't even tailor, right, their plans, the same way. Yes, they're going to have common experiences because you are their parents. Yes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Absolutely. Thank you for joining Dominic Gift. All right. So yes, you are their parents, so you're going to be giving them common experiences, right? Because of course you are their parents. But in those experiences, you will see that each of your children will receive the experience in a different way. Each of your children will interpret the experience that you are creating as a parent in a different way. This is why we have in a family, you see, our usual way, the way we like to stereotype children and all of that. You hear someone say, oh, this one is the black sheep of the family, right? And then, or you come up and someone will say, I know the parents. The parent did everything for these children, right? The parent did, hi, everybody, how are you doing? I know the parent did everything for all of their children. How come this particular one turned out differently, or this one turned out badly? Oh, the parent did everything. It's not the parent's fault, blah, blah, blah. This is because our children are unique. Our children are different, and each of them is going to interpret the experiences that we are creating for them as parents differently. So you could do one thing and one of your child thinks, oh, this is so beautiful. And you can do the same thing and another of your child will be like, I beg, this is extra. Do you understand? So our children, so this alone should tell you that each of our kids are different, okay? Each of our children are different. And so their expressions and their interpretations of experiences are going to be different. That's why you want to pay attention to who Mike Kamsi is. I want to pay attention to who Jedida is. I want to pay attention to who James is as an individual. So by doing that, it will help you as a parent to become present in each of their lives, because now I know that I need to pay attention to child A, I need to know child B and all of that. So I am creating space for each of these children in my life, and I'm being present in each of their lives. One beautiful way to do this is to create connection with each of your children. If you have young children and toddlers and you don't make time to have pillow talks with them, please introduce things like that. Okay, where your son goes in, your 10-year-old goes in and it's time to sleep, and you're like, hey, I'm coming, let's gist a little. You go in there, you are not asking, you are not complaining, you are not preaching, you are nothing. Hey, sweetie, I just came to talk. You don't even, sometimes you don't even need to say, I came to talk. You don't even want to know what happened to me today. You just lie down there on his bed and you go with your story of what your day was like, papa, like one, two things. And then you are like talking like, oh, I intentionally came here to give you this gist. All right. By the time you do this with your child, you will find out that you have created a communication or a connection channel between you and the child, that your child will begin to learn, or your child will start using also. Okay. The thing with us, okay, is we don't think about these things, or we don't apply these things early. All right. That's why I'm talking to you, toddler parents. I'm talking to you, parents of school age children. Okay. Even for you who is a preteen parent, if you didn't do all of these things when they were younger, that's still a window of opportunity. They are preteens. They still want your validation. They still want to do right by you. They're not rolling their eyes as much as your 14-year-olds, your 18, your 16-year-olds would. So you can still get in there and still be, that parent who is present. It's while you are present that you will understand how they process the things that you do. It is one thing to have an intention, it is another for your child to see that intention for what it is. All right. So while you're talking to child A, you will realize, oh, he got the message differently. And then you stop by to talk to your 6-year-old daughter, and your dad, hey, so you wanted to read your bedtime story. Why not take your story, read with the child, something. Just have that moment with your children. Each of them, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it will go a long way. Okay. But now it's because of the consciousness or the intention. I mean, you being intentional enough to want to know each of them so that you can tailor your parenting to meet their needs. This is one of the things that will create this kind of relationship, or that will make you conscious about this kind of relationship. So yes, when we are conscious of creating plans for each of our children, it makes us become more present, or present in their life. Okay, it makes us present in their life, and it helps us to create special bonds with each of our children. Number two, it will help us to identify the gaps in your children's development or in their learning. Okay, so there are times you will have conversations with your child and you would know that, okay, this child doesn't even comprehend things in a particular way, or I mean, is not able to comprehend things at the level that the child should be. So sometimes you realize that your 12-year-old is operating at a 16-year-old level. And that's because you actually have conversations with them, and the kind of conversations, or the feedback you get from the conversation you have with your child, you would realize, oh, this child is at that level. But there are times you're having conversations with your 15-year-old, and you will realize there are gaps in this child's social skills, or in this, in the ability to reason out things, just from the feedback you get from doing all of this. Now, because you're present in their life and you have been there and you're constantly there, you're able to see the things that are gaps in the child's life, and then you're able to nip those gaps in the bud. You're able to create specific plans to fill those gaps that the children have. Very, very key. But if you are not at that point where you're trying to create, or where you're trying to tailor your parenting to meet the child's need, you may not be able to see these things. All right. Number three, you are able to find out the talents that your children have. You're able to find out the talents that they have just because you are specific, or you are looking, or you're trying to create something for this child. You're able to find out the talent that they have. You're able to see the talent that they have because you're paying attention. You are that parent that, you are very busy. I mean, you're that parent who goes out in the morning. You're the parent who probably works offshore, onshore, whatever. You're that parent who lives in another country. You're that parent who isn't present like that. Now, if you're not in that space where you are constantly reviewing the plan that you have for your child, the plan that you're reviewing, the plan you have, you're looking at what's next and all of that, then you won't be paying attention to these small things like, okay, so where's the child right now? You will miss these things. That's what I'm trying to say. You will miss these things, right? You will miss the talent that they have, you will miss the skills that they have if you are not trying to be intentional. So there are kids, okay, let me give you an example. So during the lockdown, okay, during the lockdown 2019, what was that, 2020, right, 2019, 2020, or something like that, right? So I introduced, for lack of, we needed to fill in the time, isn't it? So we got a music teacher for the children. We got a music teacher. We enrolled them into music school, and then of course, we continued like that during the COVID. I think we enrolled them before. That whole music is good for learning. Music is good. For children basically, and all of that. So but our son was not interested. He wasn't interested at all in that whole music class. He wasn't. But he did it for a bit. He would be the last person to turn in his assignment. Sometimes he would not turn them in. He wasn't interested, but because of course, okay, it is us, and of course he knows that, okay, we've committed, and then of course it's something that we expect of him. He would do it. He would show up, but he wasn't interested. He would turn in the assignment, okay, maybe late, but he had to do it. And then when he had the opportunity, because we do that with the children every now and then, we ask them, what is it you're doing right now that you don't feel like? You can tell me, and all of that. So during one of those art talks, he said, Mommy, please, can I opt out of the music thing and all of that? So he got off music, because music is a talent. It's not like something else that will be like, it's good for you. You just don't see it, And for that, it's like my child coming to say, I don't want to go to church again. Okay, so it may not be that easy to say, something, stay at home, don't go to church, right? Because, hey, so yeah, so with music is skill and, all of that. So we allowed him to get off music and all of that. Then one day I was in church and he was singing, and all of that. After church, a woman walked up to me and she's like, do you know he sings really, really well? I'm like, don't know, I don't know, I don't really know. I listen to him sing all of his songs that they sing all around, and all of that from his games, right? He sings all those FIFA songs and all of that. Yeah, and it sounds really good when he sings them, but I've never, thought about it like deeply, and all of that. And when she approached me immediately, because I am that person that is constantly, we are in that space where we're constantly curating and structuring what works, what doesn't work, and all of that. And we know that the children are in the place where they're also self-discovering, they're discovering, and we don't know all the potentials that they have yet. And it's through expressions and giving them platforms and opportunity to express these potentials that we will see. So we're in that phase where we are we're in that phase where we are looking out, for all of these potentials. And so I said to him, oh, this person said that and all of that. I think that alone was a boost for him. I don't know what it is. There's a piano in the house and whatever. And before I knew it, I would sit down in my room and then I would hear him, trying to play, something that one of the songs from his games, and he's gone, put the notes together and he's trying to achieve them, and all of that. And then one day he walked in and said, Mommy, is it possible to go back to music school? So is it possible to go back to music school? And I'm like, why not? And so I went back to the plan, okay, went back to the plan, mentioned it to my husband, went back to the plan and started structuring where we're going to put that, going back to music school, and all of that. And right now he's preparing for Cambridge exams and all of that. And I already have it. Okay, good. Cambridge ends in May and he's going to be at home from May. He's going to be at home from May up to September. So that's a good time to get right in there, back to music school, and then we can take it from there forward. So if you are in that space, right, where you are, it's easy for you to begin to create plans and curate things, and all of that. All right. So number 5, he helps you understand what is going on in the life of your child. Now, because you are curating and you are constantly in that space where you're trying to, know what is going on, what milestone the child is achieving, what's next, you're in that thing because you have a plan, because you're working on a plan. It's like having a project. You realize, let's say you have a building project. It's easy for you to know everything that is happening in that industry at the time. Say you're building your house, okay, and you are supervising the project yourself. So what it is you will know the latest things in that field. I mean, in the whole building, building in that scope. Basically, you will know a lot that's going on there. You will know about tiles, you will know about interlocks, you will know about, what's it called, you will know about all of these things, and you are alert. You are probably driving and you will see a house, and before you know it, you're stopping to go and look at the lintel. You're probably stopping to go and look at, something that you see, because at that point you are focused. Your mind is on, creating that beautiful piece, or that beautiful, structure that you want, that is befitting for your family. Or if you are a project person managing, someone's project, you want to do the best job of it. So you are in that space where you are, you're about to create something, and because of that you are alert, basically. So you get to know the things that's going on in their lives, and all of that. All right. So number 6, it helps you create a relationship with your child where you can influence the child. Now, because you're walking the journey, that's a cool thing about these things. When you're walking this journey, you are involved in their lives. You're seeing everything. You are constantly going back to your plan and recreating and all of that, because you have one on ground. What it does is it helps you build closer connection with your child. And without knowing it, you realize it's easier for you to influence your child. And that's also because at this juncture, when you're creating with children, especially when your children are old enough, then they know that you have a plan, because you will be looking at that plan together. You will be looking at the plan together. You will be tweaking the plan together. So your child knows that they are important to you. Your child knows that you're not just another parent. They are not just anybody in your life. They know that this, who they are, is that important to you as a parent. And so who doesn't love being special? Who doesn't love the fact that someone is here trying their best to make the best, or help me make the best of my life? So yes, it makes it easy for your child to trust you, and it makes it easy for you to be able to influence your child. Talk about you having the heart and the ears of your child. So meaning your voice will mean something, for your child, to your child today. And that voice, it's not even now that they are little children that voice is that important. It's the fact that by the time they become teenagers and young adults, you can still influence them, and your voice can still be the voice of reasoning in their lives at the time where things become very, very tricky, right? And then the last one is it helps you avoid mistakes. It helps you avoid mistakes. It helps the child avoid a lot of mistakes. All right. So there are a lot of things that your child could have found out through trials and errors. A lot of things that your child could have made mistakes that we're not saying, what we're doing here is to prevent our children from making mistakes at all in their lives. Who told you that after having a plan that your child is not likely to make a mistake here and there, or that something cannot go wrong here and there? But we're saying it minimizes, or it reduces the chances of mistakes. I hope that you're not that parent that is raising children and telling yourself your children will not make mistakes. You're not that parent that is not creating, opportunities, or you're not leaving, the chance open that your children will make mistakes at one point or the other. Okay, if you're not, then you're delusional, please. Okay, we don't want to be delusional. We want to be as realistic as possible, knowing that our children could make mistakes at one point or the other. The truth, what is important is how well have we equipped them to be able to bounce back, rebound, after the mistakes that they make? How have we equipped them emotionally? How have we equipped them socially? How have we equipped them spiritually? How have we equipped them culturally, all right, to be people who are able to thrive in whatever situation they find themselves, so that even when they make mistakes, all right, the foundation that they have become what they fall back on if and when they make mistakes. Okay, but being able to create a plan for your children would actually eliminate a lot of the mistakes that they could make. And of course, it becomes a springboard that your children do not have to take the long route or go through some of the, touring, some of the path, that people who do not have their contemporaries who do not have parents who are intentional, or parents who have taken time to create plans for them have. All right, so these are 7 reasons why you want to put yourself in a space where you can do this. But then again, you know how it is. We don't just come here and we give you talk, and we don't help you know how to create solutions. As I said, we have the creating we have the personalized education execution plan course that is coming up, okay, at the end of February, sometime at the end of the February. Okay, the flyer will be out in a day or two. Just look out for it today or tomorrow, and you can jump in and be a part of that course. Okay, in the meantime, you can send us a message. You can put it here, or just send us a message on our number. Our number is always everywhere: 0813062156, or you can just put it in the comments that you are interested in the PEP, and so we will reach out to you as soon as that course is ready. Apart from that, in a few days, in 2 weeks, I have a free masterclass. Okay, we love to give that every month, so we have a free masterclass that is going to help you. We want to help parents know how to create their environment and to create routines that will make it easy for them to teach their children. Remember, at the beginning I said that you are your child's first and most important teacher. Okay, but a lot of times some of us don't even know how to go about being their teachers, or what content we should have as their teachers or their most important teacher. It begins with a structure that you can create in your home. Okay, and that structure is will come from the routines, will come from the policies, the routines, the schedules, all of these things that you have in your home. So look out for that free masterclass so that you can hop in and be a part of it in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to stop here. How many of our resources do you have? Are you equipping your children? Are you equipping your children? Are your children still reading only wimpy kind of stories, or are they beginning to read stories that will empower them, stories that will open up conversations with you as a parent, so that you can bless them with a gift of your perspective? We write books that will help open up conversations between parents and their children, so that you as a parent can share perspective with your children. So this is my first book, Bedtime Stories for Champions. Amazing book. It's full of stories of young people, 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10, 15-year-olds, who are already living every day understanding that there is a purpose they were created for, and they're already impacting their communities and making a difference in their lives and in their communities. So amazing book. Has over 20 stories of young people who are already changing the world. Okay, it has a story of Louis Braille. Louis Braille was the 10-year-old who wrote the Braille. He wrote the Braille when he was only 10 years old. All right, he wrote the Braille when he was only 10 years old, and that's what is used for visually impaired people till today, how many centuries later. So that's it. We also have the Skill Up Your Champions, right? So Skill Up Your Champion journal. We want children to be able to reflect at the end of the day. Get your children into that space where they can now start to create plans for themselves. They can now start to reflect: what did I achieve today? What can I do differently tomorrow? Okay, like that. So this book is a great way to document all of that. And you know something, you can save all of these. They they become memoirs that your children will look at later in life, so that no child will come and say you did not try for them. So when they look at these things, they will be like, ah, no, but my mom was on point too. And then he gives them a legacy, okay, and points them to what they could do for their children as they grow older too. All right. So that's it. We have this amazing young and money smart. As I said, we want to trigger children to start thinking in the right direction. So this book actually came for their mindset. We want them to start thinking from about money from an empowering point, basically. And as I said, you can have conversations just through sharing what this book is about with your child. What are you reading? Oh, Young and Money Smart, let's read it together. We'll read a page of it or 2 pages of it, or we'll read, one chapter of it, every weekend, and we can talk about it. It's a way to be present on the days that you are present. All right. Or every evening if you have that time. Amazing book. Playtime Stories for Champions. We want your children to learn through play. This is what happens. So for your 0 to 10-year-olds, amazing book. They will read stories and they will create activities right through these books. All right. And then unlock excellence. We want children to know, as I said, it's not just in school, it's excellence everywhere. Your skill, your talent, your social skills in the playground, your attitude to life, all of it. So unlocking excellence talks about excelling beyond the classroom. That's what that's for. I talked about mentor parents. That's my only parenting book. And I was just sharing my journey. How, as a rookie mother, I started to make my mistakes and, all of that. And then, yeah, all of it in here. All right, Christmas Stories for Champions, another amazing book, Legacy. Let the children have a peek into what our lives were like when we were growing up. Let them know what Christmas felt like 30 years ago. Okay, and not this one that they just sit down here, eat one food, eat the next food, sit down and play games on Christmas Day and all of that. And that's what Christmas is about. They need to know about the egungu that we were chasing, or the ones that were chasing us. They need to know about, all of these things, okay? And yes, so you can get all 7 of our books. Is that what they are? All 7 of our books for 28 or 29,000 only for all 7 of our publications. Or you can get each of them at different prices. You can check our seller store, okay? We'll share the link where you can, or you can just send us a message, all right, that you would like the book, and we will respond to you on WhatsApp. 0813062156 is the number again. Okay, apart from that, you can look, if you are on YouTube, you can go ahead and look at, take a screenshot. So our account number is right there, our phone number is right there, and 4,000 naira is the amount for each of our Skill Up and Playtime Stories for Champions series. Okay, so this one, 4,000, 4,000. All right, so as I said, you can get all of this. You know how to reach us now. So thank you very much for joining us for today's session. And if you would like your child to be a part of the Mastermind Circle, I talked about the Mastermind Circle at the beginning. We're enrolling for the half-year cohort. So your child can jump in and join us in March. And it's just 30,000 naira. Think about it this way. It's like 5,000 naira per month. And we are with your child every day, every weekend, throughout to the end of the cohort, a whole 6 months. Okay, your lesson teacher, I'm sure that's just transport for lesson teacher for 1 week, right? That's what we do with your children for an entire 6 months. I mean, for an entire month, just 5,000 naira. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We do not take it for granted that you make time to be with us, and that you allow us into your home to be a part of your parenting journey. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day. Bye.